So I want you to really show love the way we can show love to our friend and leader, Kiran Kumar. Please.
When you're 5 foot nothing, then it has to come right down. Friends, I'm so privileged to walk this journey with you. And I want to thank in a very special way Ethel. Ethel and her wonderful team and volunteers at WEEP, her wonderful family, listening to Denise, and I want to thank everyone here who has come this morning. As I said, it's a privilege for us to take the first step with you. Okay, to take this first step with you. It's really the first step of this World Courts in the US on homelessness and poverty. And I thank you, Ethel, with all my heart for all the work that you have done to do this. I wanted to bring to you and to offer you something from the children of Soweto in South Africa. And this was at the Festival of Children, and this is sung by the storytellers of Soweto. So when I saw that there was so much of hip-hop in the program and so much of beauty and aesthetic, which I think is so important, that we not only speak truth to power, but we speak beauty and ethics to power, I chose this for you, and I'm going to read it for you. It's from the storytellers of Soweto. We have entered the night to tell our tale, to listen to those who have not spoken. We who have seen our children die in the morning deserve to be listened to. We have looked on blankly as they have opened their wounds. Nothing really matters except the grief of the children. Their tears must be revered, and their inner silence speaks louder than the spoken word, and all being and all of life shouts out in outrage. We must not be rushed to our truths. Whatever we have failed to say is stored secretly in our minds, and all those processions of embittered crowds have seen us lead them 1,000 times. We can hear the story over and over and over again. Our minds are muted beyond sadness. There is nothing more that we can fear. We live, friends, women and men who will bring testimony to the court, members of the jury, those of you who will speak as expert analysts in the round tables. We live in violent times, times in which our collective and community memories are dying, times in which our dreams are turning into never-ending nightmares, and the future increasingly fragmenting. Times that are collapsing the many life visions into one cosmology, into a single cosmology that has created its own universal truths: equality, development, peace. And these truths are inherently discriminatory, even violent. Times that have created the globalized world order that dispossesses the majority, that desacralizes nature, that destroys whole cultures and civilizations. I'm thinking of the indigenous in the US, that denigrates the women. Times in which the war on terrorism, a la Pax Americana, brings a time of violent uncertainty and of brutal wars. The wars for resources, for oil, diamonds, minerals, uranium now, the wars of occupation. A state terrorism that through its development models and through its technological choices and more through its wars and weapons culture Times that are giving us new words. Preemptive strike, collateral damage, it simply means women and children and men killed. Embedded journalism, enemy combatants, rendition, military tribunals, drones, unmanned drones. These are new words, friends, because we are living in new and more violent times. But these new words are words soaked in blood. Times in which the political thinking and the institutions and instruments of justice are hardly able to redress the violence that is not only escalating but also intensifying. Times that presuppose the genocide of the many, the gender side of women. Times in which progress presupposes, when we speak of progress, but it really means the genocide of the many, the gender side of women. Times in which human rights have come to mean the rights of the powerful and the rights of the privileged. And that for the masses to have their human rights, they have to surrender the most fundamental human right of all, and that is their right to be human. Times in which, friends, the political spaces for the other is diminishing, even closing. It would seem that the world is at the end of its imagination because the old categories, the old concepts are hardly able to grasp the violence of the times. When we think of poverty, poverty is no longer able to grasp the destitution that the poor people are plunged into. While we need to extend the horizons and to deepen the existing rights discourse, while we need perhaps a new generation but a new vision of human rights, because we need to urge the passing of a paradigm that has understood human rights as the rights of the privileged and the rights of the powerful. We need to listen to those voices that have no power. We need to listen to those voices on the edges. The poor and homeless people in the US are people on the edges, because in listening to them, we will be listening to different stories. Who will deny that we need another political imaginary? Ethel spoke of that, another political imagination. Our imaginaries must be different. The new imaginaries cannot have its moorings in our dominant discourses, but must seek to locate itself in a discourse of disobedience, in a discourse of dissent that comes from a deep critique of the different forms of domination and violence in our times. Any new imaginary cannot be linked to systems of violence or to systems of exclusions. For to imagine is not only to see what does not exist or what can exist, but in a very profound way, it is a deep act and a profound act of creativity to see what is. And this in itself requires imaginative leaps, imaginations that we must leap, and this is what we're trying to do in the courts. Perhaps it is this expression of resistance that seeks legitimacy, not by the dominant standards, not by the dominant paradigm of jurisprudence, not by the rule of law, but can begin to draw the contours of a new political imaginary. We hear of so many truth commissions, the public hearings, the people's tribunals, the courts of women. And these are expressions of a new imaginary, refusing that human rights be defined and confined only to that which has been hegemonic, only to the hegemonic discourse and paradigm. These articulations are finding new ways of speaking